discussed the average rate of change. And you can say again, yes, between 2 points. We already did this in general. Average rate of change of a function between p of x1 comma f of x1 and point q x2 comma f of x2. We already know that is the difference quotient, or just the average rate of change, which is the slope of the line. Same thing, f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1. So let's see the average rate of change, and then we'll talk about parallel and perpendicular lines, and that is the end of the material for test 1. So in case you came in late, test 1 is a week from today. So let's say 18, and I'm on page now 279. So 18, 279. Careful what I copy, because as I said, it's sometimes it's blurry on my paper. So f of x equals the square root of x, and x1 is 9 and x2 is 16. Okay, so we're asked to find the average rate of change. Okay, first of all, I have to find f of x1 and f of x2, no problem. So f of 9 is the square root of 9, which is 3. And f of 16 is the square root of 16, which is 4. And I'm done. The average rate of change will be y2 minus f of x2 minus f of x1, 4 minus 3, over 16 minus 9. The top is 1, the denominator is 7. This should normally have, it's hypothetical, no measurement units, but this should have 2 measurement units, one coming from the numerator and one coming from the denominator. But right now it has no measurement unit. And that's how we determine the average rate of change. And let's determine another one from a graph. So on page 280, I just would like to determine the average rate of change, whichever line, whichever 2 points you would like to consider. These points or these points? Number 1 or number 2? Let's do number 2. So for number 2, I see 7f of 7 and 12f of 12. Good. So now let's copy f. So f of x is given to us, of course. I see 1.1 x cubed minus 35x squared plus 264x and plus 557. And I know I have to determine f of 7, and I have to determine f of 12. And I'm going to grab the calculator. So let's do this together. In y equals, clear if you have anything. I also have to clear my, potentially, my stat plot. I can activate it later. Okay, so in y1, let's enter this function. So 1.1 x power 3 minus 35 x squared. So for the power 3, you have to use the caret. For x squared, you don't, because it's right here. Plus 264x. Let me know if you fall behind. 264x. And plus 557. Do we all have the function in? If we do, then we go to second and table, and I will immediately plug in 7 and 12. 7, enter, 12, enter, and it's done. And I will highlight to see this is 1067.3, and the other one is 585.8, as expected, because the slope appears to be negative. So then the average rate between 7 and 12 is y2 minus y1, 585.8 minus 1067.3, divided by 12 minus 7. Careful, you don't have to calculate anything. You can put everything in the graphing calculator, but you must put, for the graphing calculator purposes, you have to put parentheses around the top and the bottom. So left parenthesis, 585.8 minus 1067.3, close the parenthesis, and divide. You don't need parentheses if you just say this is 5. But otherwise, you have to put in parentheses. So I got negative 96.3. Let's discover the measurement unit. It has to have 2 measurement units. Let's see what is on the y-axis. Number of discharges. Fine. What is on the x-axis? Years after 1994. So number of discharges per year. From this till this. Any questions? Please don't forget the average rate of change, like the slope has 2 measurement units. And I would like now to discuss parallel and perpendicular. That's the last topic we have to discuss. So back to page 279, any problem from 5 to 8 and any problem from 9 to 12. If anyone would like to choose, I'll be very happy. You make my life easier when you choose.
7.
Which one? 7? Very good. 7 it is, on 279. It passes through 2 comma negative 3, and it's perpendicular, that's the symbol for perpendicular, to y equals, let me see if I see this correctly, is it 1/5 x plus 6? So here is the scenario, here's the idea. Forget about this for a moment. We're asked to find the equation of this line. This line has an unknown equation. And now we're asking ourselves, what do we know about this line? Well, we do know 2 things. One thing is that this line passes through this point. So somewhere along the line, I have 2 comma negative 3. Which automatically tells me that I can write on the side y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, where it's guaranteed that x1 is 2 and y1 is negative 3. Okay, moving on to the second half. Yes, any questions, please?
How did you figure out the line is a slope positive?
It's a very good question. I'm just telling you it's a very perfect question. This is the scenario. I have no idea what it is. But if it looks like this, the idea is still the same. But it's a very good question. It's a colleague of mine. I'm not going to answer. Sorry about that. Okay, so it doesn't matter. This is just a scenario. Let me see if I can turn that off. I could. Okay. So I just presented the idea, but it could be this way. But the calculations will not be different. So we know that it passes through this point, but I also know that it's perpendicular to a given line. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line perpendicular to it with 90-degree angles everywhere, because that's the definition. And I know that this equation is y equals 1/5 x plus 6. Why do I even need this? Because I don't have the slope. If I had the slope, I wouldn't need to discuss any of that. But I don't have the slope. I do know that if two lines are perpendicular, their slopes must fulfill this relationship. This is a must. So how do I determine the slope of the green line? Do I know the slope of the red line? And the answer is yes. I do know the slope of the red line. Can anyone give us the slope of this line?
The slope of the red line?
Yes.
1/5.
Thank you very much. The slope is the number in front of x as long as the equation looks like this. Because if I have 2y or mx is on the other side, I have to rearrange it in this format, but it's already done for us. So y is y, the slope must be the number in front of x is x, and this must be the y-intercept, which I don't care for right now. So since the slope is 1/5, if the slope of one line is 1/5, what is the slope of the other line, which is definitely the slope of the line I'm looking for? So that, what should I multiply 1/5 by to get -1?
-5.
Thank you very much. There is no other way. Only 1/5 times -5 will equal -1. And now I have everything I need to determine the equation of the green line. So let's finish it up. So I have y minus -3. I did that intentionally so I don't have to use nested parentheses. -5 and x minus 2 in parentheses. I distribute -5x plus 10 and subtract 3. Finally, y equals -5x plus 7. What does this represent? Is the equation of this line. And Aaron was right, but I wasn't graphing. I was just presenting the idea. He was correct. It turns out that the slope is negative. So the line looks like this, but I'm not graphing anything over there. I was just presenting the idea, and so we can understand what we have to do. Very good. Let's do 10 and then we'll stop. I have one question quiz for you today, and that's the end of the material. So 10 on 279. And here it is. It passes through -1, 3, but is parallel this time to 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. Same idea. I'm not graphing anything. I'm just presenting what's behind the problem and what we are asked to do. We have this line whose equation we don't have. But luckily we know two things about it. What? That it passes through this point and is parallel to a line whose equation is 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. This is not the y-intercept, so I will immediately write y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1, where I have -1 and 3. And again, I have the same problem. I don't have the slope. So how do I proceed? What do I need to do in order to determine the slope of this line? Any suggestions? Anyone under the Samantha? She helped us a lot today. Let's give her a break. I'm kidding. Anyone can answer, including Samantha.
You would solve or
Right.
find the x, y intercepts.
Yes. So I have to solve for y. Solve for y. So let's solve for y. 3x minus 2y minus 5 equals 0. I keep negative 2y, but I have to move 3x and I have to move negative 5. When I move 3x, it becomes negative. When I move negative 5, it becomes positive. So negative 2y equals negative 3x plus 5. But I have to divide by negative 2. So this is y, 3/2 x minus 5/2. Only now, I'm going to write the equation underneath so we can compare it. Y is y, x is x, and the y-intercept. Can anyone give us the slope of the blue line? We just solved it for y, so what will be the slope of the blue line?
3/2.
Thank you very much. Awesome. Can anyone now give us the slope of the brown line, knowing that the two lines are parallel, not perpendicular? What should the slope be here?
The same.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Because the lines are parallel. Great job. Of course, I need to calculate and solve for y, but I'm pretty much in the clear with the problem and I understand what I'm doing, right? And it's almost done. So I have y minus 3 equals 3/2, and x minus negative 1 will be x plus 1. You may say this is the lazy way of doing it, but I prefer this instead of writing this. And then parentheses again. I may get confused. You can, this is perfect. But if I write it underneath, I see negative, negative, and that will be positive directly. I have to distribute 3/2 x plus 3/2. The negative 3 becomes positive 3 on the other side. And I have to add these two. I know some of you may still have difficulties with this, so let's do this on the other side. What is the least common denominator? Well, there is only one denominator, so it's really 2. So 2 was multiplied by 1, but 1 was multiplied by 2, so we have to multiply the numerator by 2 as well. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 times 3 is 6. 3 plus 6 is 9. The answer is 9/2. You cannot simplify or do anything else here. So y equals 3/2 x plus 9/2. And the question is, what does this represent? Well, this is the equation of the line that is going through, passing through negative 1, 3, and parallel to the blue line. That's what that represents.